My 5-year-old daughter. Lily walked through the front door of our penthouse and collapsed. She didn't run to me with her usual hug. She fell to her knees, her small hands trembling against the marble floor. "Mommy, please." Then she sobbed, her voice barely a whisper. "Please don't make me go back to Saint Jude's. I don't want to go anymore." I dropped my tablet, my heart plummeting into my stomach. "Lily, honey. Look at me. What happened?" She just shook her head, tears streaming down her pale cheeks. Too terrified to speak, her silence was louder than a scream. Mother's intuition, sharp as a blade, told me this wasn't just a playground spat. I gently pulled her up and lifted the sleeve of her uniform shirt. I gasped. Her arm looked like a pin cushion. Dozens of tiny red puncture marks dotted her pale skin. Pencil stabs. I lifted her shirt higher. Her ribs were bruised blue and purple. My hands shook, not with fear, but with a visceral blinding rage. I snapped a high-definition photo of her injuries and immediately opened the Saint Jude's kindergarten parents class, a WhatsApp group. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I uploaded the photo. "Who did this to my daughter?" I typed, my fingers hitting the screen so hard I almost cracked it. Almost instantly, a reply popped up. It was from a contact named Tiffany, Brayden's mom. I told my son to do it. Got a problem before I could even process her audacity. She sent 2 more photos to the group. The first was a wedding photo. It showed Tiffany in a gaudy low-cut lace gown clinging to a man. My husband, Brad. The second photo was a paparazzi shot of me, Lily and Brad walking out of a restaurant. But she had drawn a red X over my face. "You dirty homewrecker," Tiffany messaged. "You have the nerve to steal my husband and parade your bastard child around. You should be thanking God I didn't have Brayden beat that little brat to death." The group chat exploded. The notifications rolled in like a tidal wave of sewage. "Mrs. Vanderwoodson, oh my God, I knew she looked cheap. Cooper's mom, disgusting. Someone called child services on her. Bella's dad, keep that trash away from our kids." And the teacher, Miss Harper, chimed in. She tagged Tiffany. "Brayden showed great leadership today, Mrs. Sterling. I'll make sure he gets the Student of the Week badge tomorrow." Tiffany sent a laughing emoji. "If you've got a problem, come say it to my face." Brayden and I are at the school gate waiting for his dad. I stared at the screen, my blood turning to ice. My legal husband, Brad Sterling, a man who didn't have 2 nickels to rub together until I married him, was playing house with this woman and letting her assault my child. I grabbed my keys and picked Lily up on the way to the car. I voice messaged my chief legal officer at Sterling Vance Global. "Draft the divorce papers, initiate the prenup clauses immediately. I want Brad on the street with nothing but the clothes on his back." I took a breath, staring at Lily's bandaged arm, and called the security team. "Meet me at St. Jude's Academy now. Someone hurt Lily and they're going to pay with blood." When I pulled my Rolls-Royce Cullen and up to the curb of St. Jude's Academy, the scene was already set against me. Tiffany was standing by the wrought iron gates, surrounded by her court of sycophants, the alpha moms of the PTA. She looked like a plastic surgery nightmare. Blonde extensions, too long. Lips too full, wearing a designer tracksuit that screamed nouveau riche. "Tiffany, you are so humble," one mother squealed. "If you hadn't posted that, we would never have known. Your husband is the CEO of Sterling Vance Global." "Exactly," another chimed in. "I always thought you had this aristocratic aura." "That explains it. Real money whispers, right?" "We've got your back, Tiff. We're respectable mothers here. We can't let some low-class side piece bully you, right? What kind of genetics does a homewrecker's kid have anyway? Trash. Brayden is the true heir. He's protecting the family honor at 5 years old." Even Miss Harper, the teacher who was supposed to protect my child, was bowing and scraping. "Mrs. Sterling, please let me know Brayden's dietary restrictions. I'll have the cafeteria chef prepare a special menu just for him." Tiffany soaked it up, flipping her hair. The irony was suffocating. Brad Sterling had been a jobless fitness trainer when I met him. I was the one who inherited Vance Global. I gave him the Sterling name to use for business. Because he felt emasculated. I gave him a subsidiary company to manage so he wouldn't feel useless. Never expected my charity would become Tiffany's claim to fame. I stepped out of the car holding Lily's hand. The chatter stopped. The smiles vanished, replaced by looks of pure revulsion. It was as if I were a contagious disease. Miss Harper marched up to me, her face twisting into a sneer. Miss Vance, per the principal's orders. Lily is expelled effective immediately. I stared at her, my voice cold steel. My daughter was assaulted, on your watch. And instead of punishing the abuser, you expel the victim, Miss Harper smirked. Saint Jude's is an elite institution for elite families. We don't cater to the illegitimate spawn of mistresses. Having you here damages our brand. I suggest, I said, stepping closer, that you check your facts on who the real mistress is, before you destroy your career. Tiffany stormed over. She didn't hesitate. She swung her hand and slapped me hard across the face. Smack! The sound echoed off the school walls. My cheeks stung, but I didn't flinch. How dare you, Tiffany shrieked. You filthy whore. You think because you popped out a bastard, you can take my place as Mrs. Sterling? The crowd gasped. Then jeered. Look at her. She can't even defend herself. Some women are just born to spread their legs for rich men. Disgusting mistresses are the cancer of society. Bystanders on the sidewalk stopped to watch, pulling out phones, recording the humiliated mistress getting what she deserved. Some even spat in my direction. I slowly unbuttoned my $50,000 Burberry trench coat and tossed it into the nearest trash can. It's contaminated now. I turned to Tiffany. First you order your son to stab my daughter. Now you assault me. Who gave you the confidence to act above the law? Tiffany laughed high and harsh. The law? I'm the CEO's wife. I could crush you and your little angel right here. And people would call it a public service. Yeah, shouted a dad from the back. If you weren't opening your legs for married men, you wouldn't get slapped. Tiffany's eyes landed on my car. Her pupils dilated with rage. You use my husband's money to buy a Rolls Royce. I drive a Mercedes and you drive this. You thief. She pulled a key from her pocket. I hate homewreckers. You all deserve to die. She lunged at the car, dragging the key deep along the phantom black paint, carving the words "whore must die." You'll realize the irony of those words very soon, I said, my voice dangerously calm. Shut up, Tiffany screamed. She grabbed a landscaping brick from the flower bed. I'm taking back every cent you stole from my husband. Crash! He smashed the windshield. Then the headlights. The other parents, fueled by mob mentality and the desire to suck up to the CEO's wife, grabbed rocks and sticks. They descended on my car like locusts, smashing windows, slashing the leather seats. Look, one woman yelled, popping the trunk. She's got stuff hidden in here. Tiffany yanked out a framed canvas. It was a painting I had just acquired from Christie's auction house that morning. Art. Tiffany scoffed, a hooker collecting art. Stop trying to be classy. Trash like you deserves trash. She tore the canvas down the middle, stomping on the pieces with her stilettos. A man in the crowd wearing thick glasses gasped. Holy shit! That's an original basket that went for $40 million this morning. Tiffany sneered. So what? It's my husband's money. It's my money. I can burn $1 billion if I feel like it. I watched them destroy a masterpiece. I watched them destroy my car. I pulled out my backup phone. My main one had been slapped out of my hand earlier. Where is the team? 5 minutes. I want the perimeter sealed. Before I could finish, a father slapped the phone from my hand and crushed it under his boot. Calling your pimp or another client. Ha, ha, ha. I looked at the shattered phone. Then at Miss Harper. You knew, didn't you? You knew Braden was torturing my daughter. Miss Harper crossed her arms. So what? Brayden was just taking out the garbage. He's a hero, Mommy. Lily tugged on my skirt. She was shaking so hard she could barely stand. Foot hurt. It's wet. I looked down. Blood was soaking through her white school sock, turning her sneaker crimson. Panic flared in my chest. I knelt and gently unlaced her shoe. I nearly vomited. Her pinky toe was gone, severed. The wound was raw and gruesome. Oh, my God! I choked out, tears finally spilling over Lily. Did Brayden do this? Tiffany scoffed from above me. Why are you crying? Stop. Stop being dramatic. You should be grateful. I told him to leave the other 4 toes. I stood up slowly. The sadness vanished, placed by a cold, dark void where my soul used to be. I looked at Tiffany. I put my entire body weight into it. My hand connected with her jaw. With the force of a car crash, Tiffany flew backward, crashing into the wrought iron gate. Blood trickled from her lip. You disgusting brat, a mother screamed. Her hand fisted in my hair, wrenching my head back. Suddenly, the mob was on me. Punches, kicks, scratches kill her. She hurt. Mrs. Sterling beat her to death. I curled into a ball to protect Lily. But I saw Brayden, a fat kid with cruel eyes, kick Lily in the stomach. She fell, gasping for air. Miss Harper clapped. Good job, Brayden. You are defending your mother's honor. A gold star for you. Brayden grinned, revealing yellow teeth. I'm gonna cut her other foot off next time. I lay on the asphalt bleeding, holding my daughter as the insults rained down. Regret it yet, whore? Tiffany hissed, looming over me, raising her heel to stomp on my face. I want to see you beg. Just then, the roar of engines shook the ground. A convoy of 12 black Cadillac Escalades screeched to a halt, blocking the entire street. The mob froze. Doors flew open. 24 men in tactical suits poured out, moving with military precision. And from the lead car, a man stepped out, tall, handsome, wearing a suit I had bought him in Milan last month. The man was Brad Sterling, my husband. The man whose entire existence, right down to the silk stitching of his Italian lapels, was funded by my inheritance. Tiffany let out a triumphant, blood-curdling screech of joy. She shoved her way through the mob of stunned, silent parents, her stilettos crunching over the shattered glass of my Rolls-Royce. Brad! Baby! She wailed, throwing her arms around his neck, smearing her bleeding lip across his pristine collar. Thank God you're here. This psycho whore attacked me. She dragged her bastard child here to ruin Brayden's day, and then she assaulted me. Tell your men to arrest her. Throw her in a ditch. Brad didn't hug her back. He stood frozen, his eyes bypassing the plastic woman clinging to him. His gaze moved past the mob, past the destroyed Rolls-Royce, past the shredded remnants of the $40 million Basquiat painting fluttering in the wind. His eyes locked onto me. I was kneeling on the blood-stained asphalt, my hair disheveled, my face bruised, cradling my pale, trembling 5-year-old daughter. He saw the crimson soaking through Lily's tiny white sock. He saw the horrific, jagged wound where her toe used to be. All the color drained from Brad's face, leaving him looking like a freshly exhumed corpse. His jaw unhinged. He began to shake, a deep, violent tremor that started in his hands and radiated through his entire body. Target secured. Threat level elevated, a voice boomed. It wasn't Brad who spoke. It was the lead tactical officer who had stepped out of the Escalade right behind him. He wasn't Brad's security. He was Marcus, my chief of security at Vance Global. Marcus didn't even glance at Brad. He and 20 heavily armed ex-military contractors surged forward in a wedge formation, parting the mob of PTA parents like Moses parting the Red Sea. They didn't ask people to move, they shoved them aside with riot shields and the butts of their rifles. A mother who had just been tearing at my hair screamed as a tactical officer grabbed her by the collar and hurled her onto the grass. Ma'am, Marcus said, dropping to one knee beside me, his voice a tight coil of controlled fury. Status. Lily is going into shock, I said, my voice dead, stripped of all emotion. The tears were gone. Only the void remained. She has a severed digit. Blunt force trauma to the abdomen. Puncture wounds on the right arm. Marcus keyed his radio. Valkyrie 1, immediate medevac. We have a pediatric trauma, code red. Bring the trauma kit now. 2 medics sprinted from the 3rd escalade, carrying a stainless steel case. They dropped beside us, immediately cutting away Lily's bloody sock with trauma shears. Lily whimpered, burying her face in my chest. SHH, baby. Mommy's got you. Nobody is ever going to hurt you again, I whispered into her hair. Tiffany, confused by the sudden shift in power, stamped her foot. Hey! What are you doing? Brad, tell your security guards to back off. They're helping the homewrecker. Get them away from that little brat. Brad finally moved. He slowly peeled Tiffany's arms off his neck. He looked at her, his eyes wide with a terror so profound it bordered on insanity. Brad? Tiffany asked, her fake eyelashes fluttering. Smack! Brad's hand connected with Tiffany's face. It wasn't a slap, it was a desperate, full-bodied backhand that sounded like a gunshot. Tiffany was lifted off her feet, spinning in the air before crashing hard into the hood of a parked Mercedes. She slid down to the pavement, completely knocked out cold for a full 3 seconds. The crowd of sycophant parents gasped in collective horror. Miss Harper, the teacher who had just been praising Brayden, clamped both hands over her mouth, her eyes bulging. Evelyn, Brad choked out, his voice cracking. He stumbled forward, ignoring Tiffany completely. He fell to his knees, on the asphalt, right at the edge of the security perimeter Marcus had formed around me. Evelyn, oh my God. Evie, I swear to God I didn't know. I didn't know anything about this. Lily, oh God, Lily. He reached a hand out to touch his daughter. Marcus moved faster than lightning. His combat boots snapped out, pressing down on Brad's wrist, pinning it to the asphalt. Do not touch the principal, Marcus growled, his hand resting casually on his holstered sidearm. She's my wife. Brad screamed, tears streaming down his face, struggling fruitlessly against Marcus's boot. That's my daughter. Evelyn, tell him to let me go. Please. The silence that fell over the street was absolute. The wind seemed to stop. The chaotic mob of wealthy, arrogant parents froze as if they had been turned to stone. Wife? One of the alpha moms whispered, her voice trembling. Did he just say wife? Tiffany, groaning, spat a mouthful of blood onto the pavement and pushed herself up on her elbows. Brad, what are you talking about? I'm your wife. I didn't look at Tiffany. I didn't look at the crowd. I looked at Brad. Your mistress, I said, my voice projecting across the dead silent street, ordered her bastard son to cut off our daughter's toe with a pair of gardening shears. Then, she led a mob to beat me, destroy a $40 million piece of art, and vandalize a vehicle registered to Vance Global. Evie, I swear, I never told her to do this. Brad sobbed, his forehead touching the pavement in absolute submission. She's crazy. She's just some girl I met at the gym. I just rented her a house. I never told her she was my wife. I never told her anything. Please, Evie, you have to believe me. Tiffany's face crumpled. The delusion shattered in real time. A girl from the gym? Rent? Brad, you said we were going to be together. You said she was just a filthy side piece you were trying to shake off. Shut your fucking mouth, you stupid whore. Brad roared at her, his face twisted in panic. You ruined my life. You touched my daughter. I'm going to kill you. I stood up. The medics had applied a combat tourniquet to Lily's foot and administered a pediatric dose of fentanyl. She was asleep, her small chest rising and falling evenly in the arms of a burly trauma nurse. I stepped past Marcus and looked down at the pathetic, groveling man I had once called my husband. You aren't going to do anything, Brad, I said softly. I wiped a streak of blood from my own cheek. Because as of 5 minutes ago, you don't exist. An older, sharply dressed man stepped out of the lead escalade. It was Alistair Sterling, my chief legal officer. He wasn't related to Brad. Brad had actually taken my family's corporate pseudonym to sound more prestigious when I bought him his first fake CEO title. Alistair carried a sleek leather briefcase and walked with the grim authority of an executioner. Mr. Sterling, Alistair said, his voice carrying the chill of a winter storm. Per the morality clause, the infidelity clause, and the gross negligence clause of your prenuptial agreement, your marriage to Evelyn Vance is hereby annulled. Furthermore, per the emergency board meeting convened 12 minutes ago, you are terminated from your position as figurehead CEO of Vance Global's Shell subsidiary, effective immediately. Brad wailed, clutching at his hair. No! No! Alistair, please! Give me a chance to fix this. It gets worse, Brad, I said calmly. I had the forensics accounting team look into the subsidiary accounts on my way here. You've been embezzling company funds to pay for Tiffany's Mercedes, her designer clothes, and the house she lives in. That's corporate fraud. The FBI has already been dispatched to your office. They are seizing your hard drives as we speak. Alistair opened his briefcase and let a stack of papers flutter down onto Brad's head. Your company credit cards are cancelled. Your bank accounts, which were heavily leveraged against Vance Global assets, have been frozen and ceased to repay the embezzled funds. You currently have a net worth of negative $4.2 million. Brad collapsed entirely, curling into the fetal position on the asphalt, sobbing hysterically. I turned my attention to the crowd. The mob of parents who had been ready to kill me 5 minutes ago were now backing away, their faces pale with abject terror. They were clutching their designer bags, trying to hide their faces from the security cameras mounted on the escalades. Nobody moves, Marcus barked. 20 laser sights suddenly dotted the chests and foreheads of the PTA parents. They froze instantly, hands shooting up into the air. Several women began to cry. Let's assess the damages, I said, walking slowly toward the destroyed Rolls-Royce. I nudged the torn canvas of the Basquiat painting with the toe of my ruined Chanel heel. This was Dust Heads, an original 1982 Jean-Michel Basquiat canvas. I won the Christie's auction this morning for $41.5 million. It was going to be a gift to the Louvre. The man in the thick glasses who had recognized the painting earlier let out a strangled gasp and fell to his knees, clutching his chest as if he were having a heart attack. And the vehicle, I continued, tracing a finger over the deep gouge Tiffany had carved into the phantom black paint. A custom Rolls-Royce Cullinan. $500,000. I turned to face the terrified crowd. Under the law of joint and several liability, every single person who threw a rock, every person who held me down, and every person who cheered is legally culpable for the destruction of my property. That is $42 million in civil damages. We didn't know, squealed Cooper's mom, the woman who had suggested calling child services on me. She fell to her knees, clasping her hands together. Please, Mrs. Vance. Tiffany lied to us. We thought you were a homewrecker. We were just trying to protect the sanctity of marriage. We're good people. Good people, I repeated softly. I walked over to her. She looked up at me with mascara-streaked tears. I leaned down and spoke directly into her ear. Good people don't cheer when a 5-year-old child is kicked in the stomach. Good people don't stomp on a woman's head. You are animals. And I am going to put you in cages. I looked at Alistair. I want every face here run through facial recognition. I want their husbands' businesses identified. Hostile takeovers, effective tomorrow morning. Bankrupt every single one of them by Friday. Then, I want civil suits filed against all of them for the $42 million. Take their homes, their cars, their retirement funds, and their children's college accounts. I want them begging for food stamps. Understood, ma'am, Alistair said, typing furiously on his tablet. The wailing that erupted from the crowd was deafening. Men were crying, women were screaming at Tiffany, cursing her name. 2 mothers actually lunged at Tiffany, but my security team shoved them back. Then, my eyes found Miss Harper. She was trying to sneak back through the wrought iron gates of the school, her face ashen. Marcus, I said. Before Miss Harper could take another step, 2 tactical officers sprinted forward, grabbed her by the arms, and dragged her back to the center of the street. They forced her to her knees in front of me. Mrs. Vance, Miss Harper stammered, her teeth chattering so violently she could barely speak. I was just following protocol. Tiffany said she was the CEO's wife. She made a massive donation to the school. I didn't want to lose my job. You let a boy cut off my daughter's toe, I said, my voice dropping to a demonic whisper. And you clapped for him. He said it was an accident with the art scissors. She cried, hyperventilating. I didn't see it happen. I swear. You called my daughter a bastard. You expelled her while she was bleeding to death, I said. I looked up at the imposing brick facade of Saint Jude's Academy. Alistair. Who holds the primary mortgage on this institution? Vance Global Real Estate Holdings, ma'am, Alistair replied smoothly. Your father bought the debt 10 years ago as a tax write-off. Foreclose on it, I commanded. Today. The principal, a balding man sweating profusely, came running out of the main doors, flanked by 3 security guards. Mrs. Vance. Please. This is a misunderstanding. We can fire Miss Harper right now. We can expel Brayden. Please, don't punish the school. The school is dead, I said, staring right through him. You have 30 minutes to evacuate the premises before my demolition crews arrive. If there is a single brick of this building left standing by tomorrow morning, I will personally sue you into oblivion. The principal gasped, clutching his chest, staggering backward as if he'd been shot. The wail of police sirens finally cut through the air. But it wasn't the local PD. A fleet of black SUVs with red and blue lights flashing pulled up behind my Escalades. Dozens of FBI agents and state troopers swarmed the street. They had been briefed by Vance Global's legal department on the way here. Arrest them all, Alistair told the lead agent, handing him a thick folder of rapid-fire warrants a judge had just signed. Felony assault, grand larceny, destruction of priceless artifacts, and child endangerment. The police moved in with zip ties and handcuffs. The PTA alpha moms, who 10 minutes ago were discussing special dietary menus for their children, were now being slammed against the hoods of police cruisers, their designer wrists bound behind their backs. They screamed, they threatened, they cried, but it meant nothing. Money talks, and true, generational wealth dictates the laws of reality. I walked over to where Tiffany was sitting, on the pavement. She was staring blankly ahead, completely broken. Her blonde extensions were matted with dirt and blood. Her fake nails were chipped. Where is Brayden? I asked her. Tiffany slowly looked up at me. Her eyes were empty, hollowed out by the realization that her entire life was a lie. He's inside. In the principal's office. He was eating ice cream. I gestured to the FBI agents. There is a 5-year-old inside who violently mutilated my daughter. I want Child Protective Services here immediately. He is a sociopath. I want him locked in a maximum security juvenile psychiatric ward. And I want him evaluated for permanent institutionalization. You can't take my son, Tiffany whispered, though there was no fight left in her voice. It was just a hollow reflex. I'm not taking him, I said coldly. The state is taking him. Because you are going to federal prison for a very, very long time. You assaulted me, you incited a riot, and you destroyed $40 million in assets. You will never see the outside of a cell again. And your precious Brayden will grow up in a padded room, knowing his mother was a cheap, stupid whore who ruined his life. An officer grabbed Tiffany by the arms and hauled her to her feet, slapping heavy steel cuffs on her wrists. She didn't resist. She just hung her head, tears cutting clean lines through her ruined makeup as she was shoved into the back of a police cruiser. Finally, I turned back to Brad. He was still curled on the ground, shivering. He looked pathetic. This was the man I had loved. The man I had defended against my father's warnings. My father had told me Brad was a parasite, a gold digger who only wanted the Vance name. I had been foolish enough to believe in love. Never again. Stand up, Brad, I ordered. He slowly pushed himself up, his eyes bloodshot, his face a mask of absolute misery. Evie. I have nothing. You took the accounts. You took my job. I have nowhere to go. Please. I'm Lily's father. You lost the right to that title the moment you let that woman's child put a blade to her flesh, I said. You have nothing because you are nothing. Everything you have, I gave you. I looked him up and down. Take off the suit. Brad blinked, confused. What? The suit, I repeated, my voice echoing in the dead silence of the street. I bought it for you in Milan. It cost $12,000. It belongs to Vance Global. Take it off. Evelyn, please, we're in public. He begged, looking around at the remaining police officers and my security team. Marcus, I said. Marcus stepped forward, drawing a combat knife from his tactical vest. Okay. Okay. Brad shrieked, frantically unbuttoning the jacket. He shucked it off and dropped it on the ground. Then his tie. Then his silk shirt. The pants, Brad. And the shoes. They're Tom Ford. Paid for by my black card. Weeping openly, shivering in the cold autumn air, Brad took off his shoes, his belt, and his trousers. He stood in the middle of the street in his silk boxer briefs, his muscular physique the only thing he had ever truly possessed, now a canvas of absolute humiliation. The watch, too, I said, pointing at the Patek Philippe on his wrist. He unclasped it with trembling fingers and let it fall onto the pile of clothes. Now, I said, stepping right up to him, so close I could smell the stale sweat of his fear. You are exactly what you were the day I met you. A broke, useless nobody. Run along, Brad. Before I decide to have Marcus break your legs. Brad backed away, his arms wrapped around himself. He looked at the police, who just stared back with disgust. He looked at the ruined Rolls-Royce. Then, he turned and ran. He ran down the sidewalk in his underwear, his bare feet slapping against the concrete, a pathetic figure fading into the distance. I didn't watch him go. I turned and walked back to the medical escalade. The nurse was holding Lily, who was resting peacefully, and 4 drips of fluids and painkillers taped to her tiny, uninjured arm. I climbed into the back of the spacious SUV and gently took my daughter from the nurse. I settled into the plush leather seat, pulling a cashmere blanket over her sleeping form. To the hospital, ma'am? Marcus asked, sliding into the driver's seat. Yes, Marcus. The private wing at Cedars. Make sure the best reconstructive surgeons in the country are waiting on the helipad. Already done, ma'am. The convoy of Escalades peeled away from the curb, leaving behind a street filled with flashing police lights, weeping, ruined parents, and the shattered remnants of a school that would cease to exist by morning. 2 years later, the heavy mahogany doors of the courtroom swung open, and the flash bulbs of 50 paparazzi cameras erupted like a localized lightning storm. I stepped out into the crisp New York air, flanked by Alistair and a phalanx of security guards. I was wearing a bespoke white suit, my hair perfectly coiffed, my expression an impenetrable mask of absolute control. Mrs. Vance! Mrs. Vance! A reporter yelled, shoving a microphone past a guard's shoulder. A statement on the sentencing? Do you feel justice has been served today? I stopped at the top of the courthouse steps. The crowd went silent, waiting for my word. Justice is a transaction, I said calmly, my voice projecting clearly over the microphones. When someone takes something from you, you take everything from them until the ledger is balanced. Today, the ledger is closed. I didn't need to elaborate. The world knew the details. The Vance Global trial had been the media spectacle of the decade. Tiffany was sentenced to 25 years in a maximum security federal penitentiary without the possibility of parole. She had tried to plea bargain, claiming temporary insanity, but Alistair had spent $10 million making sure the prosecution buried her under an avalanche of character witnesses, financial fraud charges, and felony assault. Her beauty had faded instantly in prison. The last time I saw her in court, her hair was graying, her face gaunt, her eyes hollowed out by the brutal reality of the general population. Braden, as I had promised, was institutionalized. Child psychologists diagnosed him with severe antisocial personality disorder. He was locked in a high-security juvenile psychiatric facility. He would remain there until he was 18, at which point he would be transferred to an adult facility. He would never see his mother again. As for the PTA mob, absolute financial annihilation. My corporate raiders had dismantled their husbands' companies within a week. The civil suits bled them dry. I didn't just take their money, I took their social standing. They were evicted from their penthouses, their country club memberships were revoked, and they were forced into bankruptcy. I heard Cooper's mom was working the graveyard shift at a gas station in New Jersey to pay off her legal fees. And Brad Brad was the easiest of all. Without the Vance money to protect him, the FBI tore him apart. Embezzlement, wire fraud, and tax evasion. Because I had officially annulled our marriage and cut him out of the company before the FBI arrived, I was completely insulated from his crimes. Brad was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. The last time he called me using a smuggled burner phone from a cell block in Rikers, he was crying, begging me to put money in his commissary account because he was being extorted by gang members. I simply recorded the call, sent it to the warden, and had him thrown in solitary confinement for possessing contraband. Mrs. Vance? Another reporter shouted. What about the school? Saint Jude's? Saint Jude's no longer exists, I replied smoothly. In its place, the Vance Foundation has erected a state-of-the-art pediatric trauma center. We open our doors next month. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a date with my daughter. I stepped down the stairs and slid into the back of a brand-new, custom-built armored Maybach. Marcus closed the door behind me, sealing out the noise of the press. Take us home, Marcus, I said. Yes, ma'am. The Maybach glided smoothly through the city streets, finally pulling up to the private underground garage of the Vance Tower. I took the private elevator to the penthouse. The doors slid open to reveal a sprawling, sunlit living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Mommy! I dropped my bag and knelt down just as Lily came running around the corner. She threw herself into my arms, burying her face in my neck, giggling. She was 7 now, taller, her hair braided perfectly. She was radiant, happy, and untouched by the darkness that had briefly threatened to consume her. As she pulled back, I looked down at her feet. She was wearing custom-made designer sneakers. Inside the right shoe was a state-of-the-art, custom-molded silicone prosthetic that flawlessly replaced the digit she had lost. The best surgeons in the world had ensured she walked without a limp, without pain, and without a physical reminder of the trauma. But I hadn't let her forget the lesson. How was your tutoring session, my love? I asked, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. It was great. Mr. Harrison taught me about compound interest and hostile asset acquisition today, she beamed, her bright eyes filled with intelligence. He said I'm already reading at a 10th grade level. Of course you are, I smiled, standing up and taking her small hand in mine. You are a Vance. We don't just survive in this world, Lily. We own it. I know, Mommy, she said, squeezing my hand back. We protect what's ours. Exactly. I walked her over to the massive panoramic window. We stood side by side, looking down at the sprawling, bustling city below. The millions of people moving like ants, completely unaware of the titans walking among them. I had been soft once. I had believed in charity, in lifting people up, in giving a man like Brad a chance to be more than he was. I had believed that kindness was a shield. I knew better now. Kindness wasn't a shield. It was a vulnerability. The only true shield in this world was power. Cold, absolute, terrifying power. I wrapped my arm around my daughter's shoulders, holding her close as the sun began to set over the empire I had secured for her. They had tried to take my dignity. They had tried to take my wealth. They had dared to touch my flesh and blood. Now, they were rotting in cages, and I was standing on top of the world. The ledger was balanced. And it would stay that way forever.